Hello, friends. It is time to take a look at the astrological forecast for the month of June 2023. So we are firmly seated right smack dab in the middle of Gemini season as we enter into the early days of June. Happy birthday, Gemini. It is a wonderful, wonderful time to celebrate you during your birth month. So happy birthday, Gemini. For those of you who might not be as familiar with the sign of Gemini, it is the sign of duality. So we have this undercurrent kind of sitting at our feet throughout the month of June that is always focused on both kind of listening to the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. This can be true for social interactions, for work decisions, for family connections. Gemini is the very most social butterfly of the zodiac. So we are likely spending more time outdoors with friends and family. It is not just because it's summertime or approaching summertime. Gemini season is also the time where our brains kind of go on this beautiful exploration of what is available to us. Gemini season is a time of choice. It's a time of creativity, of thought creation, of idea formation, and kind of just seeing where everything leads us. We oftentimes spend Gemini season living in our heads. And so it's important during Gemini season to really kind of pull ourselves back down to the earth. So just keep that in mind as we talk about the rest of the month. To give you a really easy preview as to what Gemini season and the month of June offers us, we're kind of splitting it into three parts. The first week, we have a whole heck of a lot of fire energy. So we are going to be looking at taking action on these ideas, these choices, these communications. We're going to be looking at really kind of having to tamp down a little bit of that fire energy. Then halfway through the month, we're going to kind of sit in a space of receptivity due to some retrogrades that we'll speak about in a minute. Retrogrades are not scary. They are not bad. They are just a time for us to kind of, instead of taking action, sit in a space of quiet receptivity as for all of those choices, those communications, those social outings, all of that. And then we round out the end of the month as we shift out of Gemini and into Cancer season, kind of in our feelings. So let's kind of dive into the first third of all of that, the fire energy. So on June 3rd, we have a full moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the final fire sign of the zodiac, which means that we've been kind of walking through the zodiac wheel, or rather the moon has been walking through the zodiac wheel. And it's pausing in Sagittarius, asking us to reflect upon what it is that we need to let go of in the areas of our view of the larger picture here. Sagittarius is kind of the gateway. It follows Scorpio, which is like the depth, the innermost depth of our souls. And when we have walked through Scorpio and we enter Sagittarius, we have ideas, we have philosophy, we have theories, we learn how to take what we walked through during Scorpio and really make it better for those who walk the same path behind us. And so the full moon in Sagittarius looks at releasing that which no longer serves us so that we can make space for that which will, as it pertains to our own theories, our own philosophies, our own ideas of life. So what is it that you need to let go of? We also want to make sure that we look at the ruling planet of Sagittarius, which is Jupiter, and where that is in the zodiac wheel at the time of the full moon. It is currently sitting newly in Taurus. So Jupiter spends 1 year in every zodiac sign before it transits out of there. As a reminder, Taurus is the sign of foundation building, of all the things we need to kind of live sustainably in this life, the structures, the formations that are around us. That means our homes, our families, the food we eat, the resources we have, the money we make. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So Jupiter being in Taurus is this great time for us to really kind of put our home life in the focus and the foundations that support us. But as this full moon occurs in Sagittarius, it's also asking us to release and let go in these areas as well. The second fire instance of the beginning of the month is Venus joining Mars in Leo. And so Leo is the second fire sign. Mars is the fire planet. Venus joining that area, being the planet of self-worth, self-value, relationship building, both romantically and friendly, as well as co-working partnerships, all of that. Joining Mars, the planet of action in Leo, which is the sign of the sun, which is also such a fire action potential energy. There's just so much coursing through us in these areas. So if you've been feeling overwhelmed, like you're just on go, go, go all the time, you're perfectly in line with the astrology. And that will start to slow down a little bit in the second part of the month, which here we go. We're going to talk about those retrogrades I mentioned earlier. The retrogrades are happening both for Pluto, which just recently in March transited out of Aquarius and out of Capricorn and into Aquarius, as well as Saturn, which in March as well transited out of Aquarius and into Pisces. The difference here, so Pluto will actually make its way back into Capricorn at on June 11th. And what this means, Pluto's been retrograde for the last 3 weeks, really, but it is returning to familiar territory. So we've been granted this beautiful view and preview of what Pluto in Aquarius means to us since March. With Saturn's retrograde, which actually won't go all the way back into Aquarius, but will make it back to the 0 degree of Pisces. Saturn transited into Pisces in March as well. So we, as these retrogrades kind of commence, carry forward, and then kind of switch signs for Pluto, for Saturn, going all the way back to the beginning of Pisces. We have this beautiful opportunity to really reflect upon what has changed in our lives since March, and what it is that we are going to carry forward of that energy into 2024 and 2025 and beyond. Pluto, just as a reminder, spends 18 years in a given sign. So this little preview period from March until June 11th is a great gift, because it's going to allow us the opportunity to kind of have some insight into some of the themes that will carry forward into 2024 and ultimately 2025 and beyond for 18 years. Saturn, the same thing, it spends 7 years in a sign. So we have had this preview since March as it kind of goes all the way back to the 0 degree of Pisces, where we can reflect on what that change since March has really meant for Saturn. Saturn is the planet of manifestation. It's the planet of building, of structures, of foundations, of hard work, of what it is that we build around us. It is the planet of karma. So as we reflect back since March, between March and June, what has changed in our worlds in both all of those areas, as well as change in general, because Pluto is the planet of change. So we have this soft period kind of in the middle of the month where we have the opportunity to review this preview of the last several months. Then, as a reminder, the third part of the month is where we sit a little bit more heavily in our feelings. This is because on June 21st, we start Cancer season. It's also the summer solstice. So we have the longest daylight hours that day, which means enjoy it, because we're about to start the second half of the year, which is all about kind of losing those daylight hours and coming back into darkness. This is actually my most celebrated day of the year, believe it or not. I am one of those weirdos who loves the darkness. So I celebrate the summer solstice every single year, because it means that we're kind of rounding that corner back into the space where we can live less outwardly and more inwardly. Just to backtrack for 1 second, on June 18th, we have the new moon in Gemini, a wonderful time for setting intentions on all of these choices, these ideas, these thought creations that you've been walking throughout all of Gemini season. And then as we kind of sit in our feelings a little bit more at the end of the month on June 30th, Neptune will also turn retrograde in Pisces, which is, a very powerful but quiet energy. So just know that feelings, and on June 21st, as we step into Cancer season, that is the first water sign, where we will likely be kind of feeling our emotions rise to the surface. So take extra good care during the month of June. Leave me any comments or questions below, and I'll see you next month.